What is the most beautiful piano chord in the world? Well, if you think it's some fancy chord with a million notes, you'll probably be surprised to know that this chord has only 5 notes and it's super simple to play. However, the trick isn't just knowing the chord, but how to use it in your chord progressions. So if you're ready to dive in, let's do it. All right, the way I'm going to teach you this chord is by first showing you a simple chord progression in the key of F major, and then I'm going to teach you how to play this really beautiful chord in this progression. So we're going to start on a B flat major chord, then we're going to go to an F major, back to B flat major, then F major, back to B flat major, and then we're going to throw in a cool little E flat major, and then end on a B flat major. Next, we're going to add a simple melody to make the chord sound a little more interesting. So the melody goes like this: A, F, C, we're going to come down to F, F, D, C, and then we're going to go F, A, G, and then F, F, and we're going to land on that B flat chord. All right, in the next step, I'm going to teach you what I think is the most beautiful chord, but before we do this, if you're enjoying the lesson, please hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more videos just like this. All right, in step 2, you're going to learn the first step of transforming these chords into the most beautiful chords. And the first step in this is to actually create a descending bass line. And so the way that I recommend that you do this is to actually start on an inverted chord. So if you take that B flat major chord, you play it in first inversion, this is the best starting point, because what you're going to be able to do now is create a descending bass line. Check this out. B flat, we go to our F chord, we're going to go to second inversion F chord. Now I know these chords sound really simple. I'm going to show you how to color them with the most beautiful chord, but you really need to know this step before you do that. Next step, B flat, this is a root position chord. Then F over A, it's an inverted chord. Then we're going to go back to our B flat chord and we're going to bring it up to this first inversion chord again. It sounds beautiful. Then for the E flat, we're going to really descend this bass line down to the G. It's a first inversion chord. And we're going to end on a B flat first inversion chord down here. So do you see what we did? We took our ordinary chords, B flat, F, B flat, F, and we created a little descending bass line out of this. Bum, 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 bum. And so it makes it way more interesting. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Johnny, I'm going to play my melody with this, and it sounds pretty nice, but I don't think these are the most beautiful chords in the world, and I would agree with that. If you really want to play these chords the way I played them at the beginning, you need to take it to the next step, which is to add what I call the minor 3 drop. And this is the most important thing that you'll want to do with these chords, so really pay attention to what we do here. Basically, when you take a chord like a B flat major chord, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take a minor third interval. A minor third interval would be like a C to an E flat, okay? And you're going to play this minor third interval a half step below the root of the chord. In other words, you're going to drop down a half step and play a minor third interval. And you're going to do this on each of your chords. So when you get to your F chord, drop down from the root and play a minor third. Same thing for the E flat chord. Here's your E flat. We're going to drop down a half step, play a minor third interval, and we have the E flat chord. Now, I know these chords sound super basic, but what you just learned will allow you to take these ordinary chords and play them like that, okay? These chords are called major 9 chords, and I think they are the most beautiful chords that you can play at the piano. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Johnny, that sounds nice, but I still don't think it sounds like the most beautiful chord. Well, that's because you're not playing the notes in the most ideal order. If you really want these chords to sound beautiful, you need to understand how to voice the chords. And this brings us to step number 4, which is to play chord clusters. And this is really where the magic is, where you take that major 9 chord and you play it like that. So here is the trick to playing chord clusters. Basically, if you take your B flat major 9 chord that I taught you earlier, and you take these top 2 notes and you put them down here, check out your new chord. Okay? You actually have 4 notes that are extremely close together, and you can use these notes to create chord clusters. So let's look at our first chord, B flat major. What note can I cluster in here? Well, remember our original chord looked like that, and I said the A clusters with the B flat. Sounds way more beautiful like this. What about the F chord? We have this. What notes could I cluster in here? Well, let's go back to that major 9 chord. We have the E and the G. If you put them down here, all the cluster notes are down here, okay? So let's go back to that F chord. I can actually put the E in, and I can put the G in, and I get a really beautiful F major 9 chord. Then for the B flat chord here, I like to add the C to it. You could also add the A to it and play it like this. You've got several options, but the way I like to play this one is to keep the root on the bottom and add the 9th in. Then on the F over A, this is one of my favorite chords to play. Check out how we're going to transform this one. Okay, really pretty. So what we're doing is we're taking that F major chord and we're adding the E and the G to the chord to get a really big chord cluster here. And so for the fingering on this one, I actually recommend that you use your thumb to play both of these notes. Then we're going to go back to our B flat major chord. We're going to add the A to it for that beautiful cluster. Next, we're going to play the E flat chord. Remember that we played this, but let's add those extra notes. So here's that E flat major 9 chord. We're going to drop the D and the F to the bottom. See all the notes you can cluster down here? Okay, let's go ahead and add these to our chord. There's our E flat major chord. For this one, I'm actually going to drop the B flat out, and I'm going to add the cluster up here at the top, okay? Really beautiful sound. And finally, the B flat major chord down here. For this one, I'm also going to drop the 5th out, and I'm going to play my cluster on the top. Now, when you add your melody to this, it's going to sound absolutely gorgeous. But you might be thinking, Johnny, what can I add to my right hand to make that melody sound even more interesting? And this brings us to step number 5, which I call the cluster landing technique. But before I teach you this technique, if you want to do a deep dive on all of the ways that you can add notes to your chords to make them sound absolutely beautiful, we have a great course on this called our Chord Extensions course. And in this course, you're going to learn everything that you need to know about adding notes to pretty much any type of chord that you would see in a chord progression. We'll talk about major chords, talk about minor chords, dominant chords. You'll learn essential exercises to master these chords, how to use them in chord progressions, and the best ways to voice each of these chords so that you can really make them sound good when you're playing progressions. So I'll put a link to that course below. All right, in step 5, we're gonna dress up our right hand a little bit, and we're gonna add some clusters, but the key with this step is to use your clusters on specific landing spots. And the way I like to do it with the progression like this is to land on a cluster on beat 3. So let's look at our first chord, our B flat major. Here's our melody. We're going to add some notes from the chord underneath it to create a really beautiful chord. There's my melody, and then check this out. Okay, we're going to add a little cluster there in the right hand, and we're going to just land here with that left hand, and it sounds absolutely gorgeous. Okay, same thing for the next chord on that B flat major chord. We're going to add an A to this. And by the way, you can add other notes. You could add the C, you could add the D, but I like to keep it simple. And then on this F chord, check it out. Doesn't that sound beautiful? Okay, and for this one, we're adding a cluster here in the right hand, so it's a landing spot. Next chord, that B flat chord, we'll add the C to it. It's just a color note. E flat, Okay, we're not really landing here because the line continues. So we're gonna put a B flat in there and then melody, and here's where we're gonna do the cluster. Okay, super beautiful. We're clustering the B flat and the A together, and it just sounds lovely. Now, one thing you might notice that I'm doing is I'm rolling a lot of my chords. So when you play this chord progression, you could play, and that would be really beautiful. But something I would encourage you to do is roll the chord. Okay, you see what I'm doing? I'm starting on the bottom note, and I'm rolling the chord quickly. All right, the last thing I want to do with you is play this chord progression with the included backing track. And by the way, this lesson comes with a downloadable backing track. You can also download and print the lesson sheet music, and you can change the key of this entire lesson with the click of one button with our smart sheet music. So I'll put a link to all of that below. All right, and here it is with the backing track. Here we go. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the lesson, please let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out pianowithjonny.com. We have over 1,000 step-by-step lessons for all playing levels where you'll learn your favorite songs, styles, and how to improvise at the piano. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.